in 1955, in a way, okay? So Tahitian Terrace actually began right here. Well, not right here, on the other side of this. Now this construction on the Adventureland side of what is now the Plaza Pavilion, or actually now it's the Jolly Holiday Bakery, this is the start of construction on what would become Tahitian Terrace. Faces the Jungle Cruise River. And here you can see a little view from the riverbed toward the Tahitian Terrace building. A little further along with a lot more of the thatching joined in there. Can everybody see pretty well? I know you guys in the back, it's a long ways, but try to bump these things up a little bit for you. So a lot of thatching went on, a lot of decor is really already there. And even more so now, we've got one more tree to be planted, and that tree would stay there for quite some time, believe it or not. I love the little guy on the left-hand railing sitting eating his lunch. He's got his old-time thermos. It's very fun. Now, Tahitian Terrace, or what would become Tahitian Terrace, had several names along the way. It was called the Adventureland Pavilion for a time. It was called the Adventureland Lanai, to borrow from the Hawaiian. And I need to read something here. I found this in a book. Does anybody remember Bruce Gordon and David Mumford, Imagineers? You all know that. They wrote a book called The Nickel Tour, based on Disneyland's history via postcards that they've collected over the years. And they wrote this about the beginning. In a whirl of and I have to read it, the quote is really great. In a whirl of oddly confused themes, guests would enter through a Victorian facade on Main Street and be served their food from a Hawaiian-themed counter, only to wind up eating at modern plastic tables overlooking an African jungle. That's absolutely true. People forget about this. And to clarify and prove that, I found this. Oh, there they are, the lovely plastic tables out on the deck there. But to prove this, here's everybody knows Sam McKim, another Imagineer, Disney legend, 1996. This is a scene that he did. If you're close enough, you can see out the doors on the right-hand side the filigree from Main Street. And you would come in that door, you would get your food, and you would go right out to the left-hand side and end up out on the deck. Now, it proved to be very popular. And here's a menu I do have to go up and read. Now, the initial food offerings had nothing to do with Polynesia, Hawaii, any other area down there. Fried spring chicken, $1.75. Shrimp dinner, $1.50. Spaghetti and meatballs, 95 cents. Beef stew, 95 cents. Franks and beans, 95 cents. Chicken pot pie was a deal at 85 cents. And at a Salisbury steak for $1.50. So, and this is actually the first time that you find the name Tahitian Terrace anywhere. Now, to prove the point, right down here in the lower right-hand side, if you get close enough, you can see the menu board on the inside. So I thought that was a pretty good shot. Lovely umbrellas. Now you have to remember this is 1955 and 1960 in that area. And these exotic places were not a hop, skip, and a jump like we think they are today. You know, today we just think of nothing getting on the plane and flying, 6 or 12 or 15 hours to get to whichever South Seas island we want. Everybody that lived in California and came to California thought, wow, this is like totally exotic. I've never seen anything like this. And they loved going out there. They loved sitting there. We have people just packed in. It's amazing. The decor is just, something that, frankly, somebody from Kansas would have never seen. And you can sit there and you can watch the Jungle Cruise boats go in and out with or without returning without their crew, perhaps. And this woman has a lovely order of 2 hamburgers and an order of fries and a bottle of Heinz ketchup. So. And then, Disney got smart and they figured they'd want a little entertainment, so they started out with a trio under that tree that finally got planted. And that evolved into a quartet. At least they got the umbrellas themed by this point, so that was pretty good. And still, you could fall off the backside of this and into the river and nobody would know. But the stage got bigger. and the groups got bigger. It became truly date night at Disneyland. And Stefan, a leader of Tupua, took a look at some of these, and he recognizes a lot of these people. They are family members of his, believe it or not. So Tupua, his parents, uncles, aunts, all of them has worked at Tahitian Terrace. So there's a lot of line through this group to the Tahitian Terrace of old. And then finally things heated up, as they say. Now, Disney knew that they had a good thing going. They wanted to add more seating. This was going to be in addition to the west side, or the Adventureland side of that pavilion area. You can see the outcropping that's on the stilts there. That was going to be a dining area. And if you really look at this drawing closely, this is another one by Sam McKim. All these are Sam McKim's, by the way. If you look at the drawing closely, it's very, very open air. It's very Tahitian, very Hawaiian, with open flow through air and ventilation. This is another view of it by Sam from directly the west side. This is what you would have seen looking from Adventureland proper to the building. And if you really look at this close, and I really apologize that you can't, but I'm going to try to describe what's going on here. A little different than what we ended up with. In the upper right-hand corner, I should say the center right-hand corner, you can see a kind of bandstand with musicians over it, and people actually dancing out in front. We have the entry that ended up being the Tahitian Terrace entry bridge. So it's a little different than what we ended up with, but you do see that dining pavilion on the left-hand side. There's another take on the whole thing. Finally, the musicians moved into the right space. They're actually dancers next to the waterfalls. And we do have the covered ridge on the left-hand side with the peaked roof there. Now this was not to be. It's beautiful, but it was not to be. At least not like that. As you can see here, this is the entrance of Adventureland, and on the right-hand center section there, this was what the expansion would have looked like had it gone forward. But something got in the way. It's about 1960s, and let me show you a picture here. You might know this guy. This is Walt and Lillian on their first cruise to Disneyland in the first cruise, 1934. Okay, they took the Matson Line Lurleen ship. It was cruising to Waikiki, Honolulu in those days. They took a trip in 1934. In 1938, they went back with Lillian and Edna and Roy. If you can see it, I want Roy's shirt. It is really cool. So that's if anybody's been to Honolulu, that's the Royal Hawaiian, the deck of the Royal Hawaiian, about 10 years after it opened. They finally cruised over there. Diamond Head in the background, obviously. And then in 1948, they took the girls with them. This is Sharon and Diane and Roy and Lily. So, the Disney influence, the Disney awareness of Hawaii, if not the whole South Pacific, was kind of manifested in 1937. They did the Hawaiian holiday cartoon with Mickey and a lovely hula dance by Minnie. And then in 1952, the other feature that features an Aloha theme features Goofy. Oh, hello, Aloha. So, we know that there's a Disney awareness of Hawaii, a Disney awareness of the South Pacific. The American consciousness was aware of it, and the debut of the Enchanted Tiki Room in 1963 was perfect timing. 1930s, the Lurleen sailed back and forth. The return of the GIs from World War II in the South Pacific, they brought their own tales back with them. Kon-Tiki and the voyage from South America even to the Polynesian area created a huge awareness of the South Pacific area, 1947. And in 1947 on Broadway and in 1958 again in the films, Rodgers and Hammerstein's South Pacific really brought that to the forefront. Trans-Pacific Airlines or air flights took place starting in 1947, believe it or not. Looks like a giant guppy. And then probably the biggest one of all is the statehood of Hawaii in 1959. But I think the thing that really nailed the whole thing together was this guy. Elvis and Blue Hawaii. No? Okay, well, maybe not. So, as I said, it was kind of a perfect storm for the Tiki Room, for Tahitian Terrace to come along. So while the technology and everything for the Enchanted Tiki Room was being put together and the whole programming was being done, they were busy building the Tahitian Terrace. They are looking into Adventureland. You can see the decks being built. That little hole in the lower left area, that's the walkway that you come up out of and go through the waterfall, the magic waterfall that we have in Tahitian Terrace. Now we're not quite ready to open. There's a big bamboo fence across the entry there, but there is one guy to the right-hand side looking in to see what he can see, if there's anybody in there. Now I do have a story to tell you. Those of you who were ever there, and maybe it's still there today, I think, the giant tree, the Disney Dendron semperflorens that's there, the story on this was written by Randy Bright in his book Disneyland, An Inside Look. And he tells the tale that Walt was visiting after they had installed the tree, they had put it all together. There's something like 14,000 leaves and flowers on the tree. They were all ready to go. They loved their work. And Walt came up and he stood in the back deck where the back tables were, and he said, the sight lines are blocked by some of the leaves and the branches. We need to raise the tree. They looked at him like he was crazy. This is a steel and concrete tree. Well, we need to raise it. Okay. So they did. They hooked a crane to the whole top of the tree. They cut it in half. I should say they just cut through it. They extended the steel and the concrete 4.5 feet. They raised the entire top of the tree 4.5 feet. So you have perfect sight lines from anywhere in the Tahitian Terrace. And here's a picture. You can see the white area. That's the new concrete that they've added to the added steel. So we got some new decor on the roof peaks. We got new costumes. We got new decor out front. Anybody remember this sign? It was my favorite sign of all time. Dinner menu, holiday and summer. Holidays and summer only. 30 years and 9 months, give or take. And between somewhere, we kind of penciled it out a little bit, somewhere between 37 and 42,000 performances during that time, featuring a revolving and an evolving cast of hundreds. So Tahitian Terrace did finally open in 1962. You were all correct when you knew that. And we always, always, always had a lovely hostess out at the entryway, ready to give the lei to you and welcome you. Now this is one of the early Tahitian Terrace menus. The strange thing is that all the menus have English names. You know, we had good food. Combination platter with skewered chicken and barbecued ribs for $1.75. 1963. Okay. That's enough sad news, right? Now the good part is the back of the menu, and I do have to read a little bit of this too. The back of the menu, if you were waiting for the show to start and you needed something to do, there was some good reading in the back. Nestled beneath the tumbling waterfall is a matchless stage setting, a stage whose curtain is a cascade of water and whose footlights are a leaping flame of fire burning on the water itself. For your summer evening enjoyment, the falls magically draw aside, and out from behind the water's sarong-clad natives appear to perform the swaying rhythms and amazing rituals of the islands. The hypnotic barefoot fire walk and thrilling fire knife dance, and the traditional grass-skirted twist of Samoa, Tahiti, and Hawaii. The dedicated student will notice how the storytelling techniques vary from island to island. Here a hip movement, there an entire torso. So good reading. Here's another menu. They finally graduated to Hawaiian names like moa. Anybody know what moa is in Hawaiian? That's those, I've been to Hawaii and seen those chickens running around? Those are moa. That's just chicken. You know, moa of the sea is, moa makai. Moa makai is chicken of the sea. Never mind. Okay. And for those of you who have been Disney cast members at any time, the Disneyland Line did a feature article on them in 1976 on the Tahitian Terrace. And if you read this article, you will learn what a great place it was to work. And the two people that were here last night told all those stories. The camaraderie, the commitment to excellence and hospitality was just one of those, made it a great place to work. Everybody worked together, worked very hard, and it showed. Friendly chefs and servers, Tahitians. Here's just a shot of the scene there, and toward the back, you see where my lovely green little thing is, the opening of the waterfall area that I talked about. And you see here's our magic waterfall that reveals our dancers and performers. Here they are walking down from the waterfall on the left-hand side and performing on the right. There's a good shot of the waterfall. So I've got some old photos in here, I've got some newer photos, and no matter what era you went to in the Tahitian Terrace, you always got a nice trans-Pacific view of all the dances that went on and on. Wait, I do have to go back. There's this little girl on the left-hand side here, and she's got her hand on her head, and I think she's saying to herself, how am I going to get my hips to do that? Now, I think Stefan knows these people. We'll look at it later, right? Anybody remember who went to the Tahitian Terrace? That's a pretty good cross-section. That's pretty amazing. For as long as it's been gone, to have that many people here that remember the shows and the dinners, actually. So, the finale of the evening, this is something that everybody waited for. The biggest element of the show is the element of fire that came along. The fire knife, sometimes even somebody daring enough to stand in fire. But on April 17th of 1993, the Tahitian Terrace fire was lit for the last time. And as the flames faded out, they put up this sign out in front. Tahitian Terrace was closed. Now, I'm not a sentimental guy, but, you know, I can tell with everybody here that the spirit of the Tahitian Terrace lives on here and over there in Trader Sam's. So, to the Tahitian Terrace, thank you very much. And now, kupua!